A handful of years ago I made this tool holder that of course I use on the shaper. Now most of the time I put the cutting tool directly here in the tool holder, but sometimes I use this one. And this one works perfectly fine and it is really handy because, excuse me, it takes 10mm high-speed steel and I put the tool in whatever angle I want in here. Which is of course very handy to cut, for example, this dovetail. All I have to do is set the tool in the right angle, come on tool, the angle that I want, and all I have to do is to cut. So this thing works perfectly fine. I'm really happy with it. It's just that this is a very big piece of iron and it is very heavy. So if I run the shaper at high speed with all this weight, the clapper is clapping very hard. And one day, long time ago, someone sent me another one. I don't remember who anymore, but thanks again. Now, this one is a tiny bit smaller, the bolt is smaller and it's a little bit less heavy, so this one could be perfect. It's just that it doesn't fit. So today's plan is a little bit multiple. First of all, make this shank more or less the same dimensions than this one. This one is perfectly fine. And if I take it apart here, in here I can put some pieces of high-speed steel, but I don't have the right dimensions. This one too small. This is a 8mm square. This one could be perfect and it fits here, but not in the others. Now, I've never been a big fan of this slot idea, so that the tool cannot escape. To me it doesn't work. This one, if I take it apart, no slots. So I can put my tool in whatever direction I want, and I can put it on this side and on this side. So this one much better. My idea is to cut off all this material, and then of course reduce the height here to make it fit in the tool holder and make no slots at all. I have to make it a little bit thinner because this thickness is also too much. So first let's start with this one surface here. That of course I will do on the milling machine. Because a few weeks ago I switched the water-based coolant to oil. And because of too high viscosity I made the oil a little bit thinner with white spirit. And since then I didn't use the milling machine. So I think this will be a very nice occasion to do this. And someone wrote some time ago in the comments that it could be a good idea to use injection needles to make a fine spray of oil exactly on the spot I need. So I don't have this big flow and too much pressure, but a tiny bit. And I think that's a brilliant idea. But I think that using injection needles could be a little bit dangerous, especially for me, because sometimes I have these uncontrolled movements, and it could well be that I'm gonna inject myself with oil. That's maybe not a good idea. So instead of needles, I made on the lathe a cute little nozzle. Now there's no video of the making of. This is just turning a little bit taper, and then the thing is pushed in here, and the bore, I drilled it out with a 2mm drill bit. So let's see if it works. Because I need to hold this thing in a vise to do the top surface. And after I'm gonna hold it on the table to side mill the two side surfaces, I think I'm gonna install my vise a little bit out of the middle, more over here, so it can stay in place after, and the part I can fix it directly on the table over here without moving things. Let's do this. This parallel stuck, perfect. This one, movement. Okay. All set, I'll dialed in 1mm depth of cut. And let's install the oil fountain. Something like this. Right, this should be more or less 23 millimeters. And it is. That's good. It's obvious I need a lot more practice with this thing here. Now, just simple curiosity, is it parallel 23, 1/10 of a millimeter? That's a lot. But of course, for this tool holder, it's not important. It's just good to know that sometimes I have to pay a bit more attention for parallelism. My idea of side milling my part in one setup is not gonna work, because for the moment the table is completely that way and my part can't go further because of the visors in the way, and I need at least 25 or 30 millimeter movement more, which I don't have. So this is not gonna work. Of course I could take the vise off and then install my part a little bit further. That could work, and then I have to invent some kind of clamp, because I don't have this side in the hole. I can put a bolt in, not a problem. But this side I need a clamp that is smaller than the width I have to cut. So what I'm gonna do, I will put it in the vise and then side mill as much as possible, and then after flip it around and hope the surface will completely blend in. Now these two surfaces are not really important, because this is a surface that is used against the clapper box and the other, so these two sides not important. Good. Let's flip it around and do the other side. And this should be it. This part is now finished and it seems to fit just fine. So I think now it's time to concentrate on this part. Well, okay. What I have to do on this part is, for example, open up this slot here a little bit more, because my 8mm little future tool doesn't fit in here. And because there are no slots anymore in this part, when I will tighten the nut on this side, what could happen is that this whole thing is gonna spin, and that's not a good idea. So I need to make two flats for a spanner on this side. And to widen this slot, I'm gonna use a brand new 8mm cutter, never used. And I can even see the rainbow color in here in the top surfaces. Now I don't think the camera will pick it up. What a beauty. Right, let's put it all together here and cut. I have here only a tiny bit of length to adjust on my parallel, but we'll see if it works or not. And I use this high-speed steel thing to put it more or less square. More or less will be good enough. Damn, it's complicated. That's not gonna work. I thought I'm gonna use my V-block in here. It will be easier. But of course there is, as always, a problem. The slot here is deeper than the rim of my V-block. That's not gonna work. Right, let's try again. That will work. Okay, just a tiny touch of file to square up these two corners here. I think this will work just fine. That's perfect. Right, all that's left to do on this part now is to make two flats. And because of the nut that comes on here is a span 22, I will make these two flats also at 22. And maybe clean up a little bit this weird looking thingy here. I just gave the thing a little clean up and I took off 5mm of this thickness here. Now I left 10mm here. I think it will be more than strong enough. Okay, cut two flats here. That I will do here in the shaper because today I feel like playing with the shaper. I installed the fence here, square of course. And I will install my little V-block here. And of course the part, something like this. I prepared a clamping device. This is, I think, a very nice example where we're gonna use the extended tool holder. If I want to use this cutting tool and I install it directly here, the underside of the clapper will touch the bolt, and of course there's not enough reach. And if I want to cut this directly in here, there will be so much tool stick out that is not rigid enough. So I installed another kind of cutting tool that I can cut in both directions, and this thing comes in here. Of course I have to install it the way it should be, but I'm sure you get the idea. Hidden under this screw thing here, there is of course the rocker arm. And because of the difference in length with the circular movement of the thing, there is a sliding system. And in there is an, I think, nylon block. And over time the nylon is getting a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger, which means it gets stuck in the U-shape thing. You hear the ticking sound. Now, it's not really a big problem to fix it, but I have to fix it. And let me know in the comments if you would like to witness me taking this whole thing apart and fix it and put it all together again. And if no one is interested, that's okay, no problem. Let's continue making the part here. Depth of cut 1 millimeter, and I need to go down 6.5 and then flip it around and again 6.5. Let's speed it up a bit. It is a little bit complicated to take precise measurements here because of all this shit is in the way. Now I can easily move the ram back. It's not a problem. And this doesn't work. So let's live dangerously. 28.6 and I needed 28.5, 1/10 oversize. I think for a spanner that will work, and if it doesn't, oh, this is not the right one, of course, this is the 22 spanner. That will work, no problem. Right, other side. That's good. Off camera I made also this little washer. Nothing special, just a washer, because the original one too big. And I also made a cutting tool. A good example for where we're gonna use this kind of tools could be, for example, just like I said, my little rail anvil. Imagine that I need to cut this surface here to clean it up. Now, I'm not gonna do it because it's perfectly pointless to do, but just so you have the point. So by hand I'm gonna install the tool more or less in the right angle, put it in here. The table is completely lowered. If I install it here, I see there is enough clearance, but this side is gonna touch this surface, so we give it a little bit an angle and a bit more stick out, tighten it all up, and we're ready to cut. Of course, clamping the part also. Yeah. It's of course very easy to explain a little bit the theory of how these things should work, but does it work? Let's find out. let's say that for some non-existent project I need to cut out this round feature here, this web I suppose it's called. And of course if I put my cutting tool directly in the clapper, it's not gonna work. Let's see if this works. Yes, it works. This thing seems to work just fine. No problem at all. Now, of course, this is just a very small workpiece that I don't need for nothing. And I could very well do it also in the milling machine. No problem, long end mill and cut it out. But what if it's, for example, this one I have to cut out? On a milling machine, that would be a challenge.